Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here. This time reviewing on Quarantine 2 Terminal. Now, as you know, Quarantine 2 Terminal is a 2011 horror film that is meant to be a sequel to the 2008 film that I did cover, Quarantine. And I would say after watching the first one, I think Quarantine 2 was trying to distance itself from the sort of shot-for-shot remake that was REC, that was the original, and Quarantine, that was just paying respect to the original. And I would say REC was kind of like the Resident Evil to the series. I think Quarantine was more trying to be like something like a Silent Hill mixed with Resident Evil like story. And I would say, yeah, Quarantine is basically, in my opinion, Resident Evil 7. I think Quarantine 2 Terminal is like a DLC or an extra bonus that kind of answers the questions after some stories. And the premise of the film is meant to focus on a flight from Los Angeles to Kansas City. We kind of see how one of the passengers becomes incredibly violent, and after something that happens on the flight where he's been bitten by a lab rat, we see how the plane is brought down, and we do kind of see how Jenny, who is meant to be a stewardess, and a group of people who are being held in a sort of like docking area are being held by armed forces, and of course try to find out how to get out, as well as learning the truth behind why the lab rats were brought in, as well as learning more truths about one of the passengers who played a key role in the events of the first film and the second one. I think what the film was trying to do is set up a bigger storyline and something totally different. I think the film is like mixing Snakes on a Plane with Quarantine, which isn't a bad idea, and I can see why I didn't want to do a kind of another REC shot-for-shot remake and wanted to do something totally different. And I think it's interesting how the actress who plays Jenny is also married to the same guy who was also the role of Brightburn's father in the film Brightburn, and Jason's father in the Power Rangers movie. And I think both of them do work as good actors, because I think the point of Jenny is meant to kind of keep the situation under control and try to keep the team together. And I think when her husband does play Kyle in Brightburn, you can tell he does openly see and kind of realize that his adopted son is a dangerous psychopath. And yeah, I can also say that, yeah, you do notice the budgeting's a little cheap, so I wouldn't be surprised if the budgeting for the film was thrown together to kind of quickly do another cash-in, and it really does seem like this. I think it would have also been interesting to have had Jenny's other co-pilot, Paula, to be her kind of lover, and kind of have it that both of them are engaged and want to do one last big thing at the concert as a couple before getting married. I think this would have given Jenny more of a heartbreak, knowing that the woman she loved had kind of became a sort of ravenous zombie, and this would have given Jenny and even one of the sort of passengers, George, a reason to kind of get out and spread the word of what they've learnt. As I think Jenny could have been an interesting character had they focused on her on the other Quarantine films, had they been made. I think there really was an intention to do something bigger with Quarantine, but I think while REC managed to get 4 or 5 films, Quarantine only got a 2008 film, the first one, as well as Quarantine 2 being a kind of final installment. It seems like they were building up to things, but it just feels like it comes off like they copped out at the last moment. I think, yeah, distancing itself from the found footage films made sense, as we weren't meant to see it as a found footage thing, but more like a DLC, much like Resident Evil 7 did, to end things on a proper note, the same way Resident Evil 8 did. I think Quarantine 2 Terminal is like a DLC of Resident Evil. It's trying to answer questions and trying to build things up that weren't always gonna happen. So I think the film definitely deserves a thumbs down. While it is building up to things, you can tell they really do cop out at the end. And just kind of feels like they had to kind of throw whatever they could at the last moment. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.